presented as always by First Commonwealth Bank here on AM 1160 WCCS 101.1 FM. And this program intended to be for informational purposes only. The information does not constitute legal advice. The law constantly changes. The information does too. And each legal problem depends on its individual facts, and different jurisdictions have different laws and regulations. Because of those differences, you should not act or rely on any information in this segment, which we call martial law, without seeking the advice of a competent attorney like Marshall Chriswell, licensed to practice law in your jurisdiction, as Marshall Chriswell is for your particular problem. Hey, that's Marshall Chriswell over there. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Wonderful, wonderful. Great. Now, a few weeks ago, you and I were talking real estate law. I was away a couple of weeks ago, and you and Chuck talked real estate law.
That's right, yeah.
And that's such a broad topic, I want to stay right there, if that's okay by you.
No problem.
All right. And I understand that you and Chuck were talking about title searches and the need to have them. And I want to expand on that a little bit. Sometimes if you don't do the title search, you find out things after you think you own the property that you might not own as much property as you thought you did, or there might be other things having to do with that property that you didn't know about. What are some of the common things that we need to look for in a title search? What are some of the problems you might have seen down through the years when it comes to titles on property?
Yeah, I can start with one that you sort of alluded to right there, is that the property description. When you go back and you look, well, first of all, what is a title search? A title search is when you have and an attorney should do this. You look at every document of record regarding that property in the county records back at least 60 years plus one owner. Mm-hmm. So that's quite it can be quite extensive. But one of the things you alluded to is the property descriptions. And if you go back and look at every deed of record, the entire chain of title, you can get a good idea for what has occurred with that property. And a lot of times, they start out as larger tracts, and maybe they're subdivided, or there are out sales, adverse sales that are, pieces of the property are sold off. And then, you compare those with the tax assessment records and the maps that they have there, and you can get a very good idea of what the boundaries of that property are, even if there isn't a professional survey done, because there's not always a professional survey done when there's a sale. In Pennsylvania, it's not required as it is in some other states. So that's one thing, is just figuring out, okay, what am I going to own? What exactly what geographic the boundaries are going to be.
That would especially be true if in the olden days it was the big oak tree over there. The property line goes to the big oak tree.
Sure.
Well, in 60 years, the big oak tree might be gone.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
If it's based on a little stream that runs down through, streams change courses over the years.
Mm-hmm. And so if those things happen, if the lay of the land, if those natural those natural monuments, as a surveyor would call them, have disappeared or have changed, then you want someone to have looked at the at those maps and at the descriptions and say, okay, well, you might want to take a look at these things and make sure that you can still find these boundaries or these monuments, because if not, then you may want to have a survey done. Mm-hmm. So part of it is just knowing that, all right, maybe the deed descriptions is a little vague now, or maybe it's not as good as it once was.
Yeah. Okay.
So the description is one part of it, and then also, whenever you have a real estate closing, whenever you walk away from the table at the end of that closing, generally, whatever is attached to the property as far as liens and judgments and back taxes and all those sorts of things, that's another consideration, because once you walk away from that table, usually there's no going back and saying, hey, we didn't realize that you didn't pay the taxes for the past 2 years. Can you pay those now? So as part of a title search, an attorney is going to look for, have the taxes been paid? Are there HOA fees or condo dues that are out there, or municipal liens, sewage and water liens, all those kinds of things that would run with the property after closing.
Would a part of this also be the assignment of mineral rights?
That's an interesting question. If the sale includes mineral rights, if it explicitly includes mineral or oil and gas rights, then a much more extensive title search has to be done, because you can't just go back the 60 years plus one owner. If you're looking for mineral, oil, or gas rights, basically you've got to take that search back as far as you can go, which sometimes takes you back to William Penn.
There you go.
So,
yeah, it does.
Yeah, it does. So that's part of it, though. And if someone, just is interested in purchasing the surface of the property and not the minerals, you do a regular title search, and then if they say, okay, well, do I own the oil and gas or the coal? I can tell you if it's been accepted or reserved by any of the prior owners. If you definitely don't own it, I can tell you that. But to have a full, to certify ownership of oil, gas, or minerals, a much more extensive search has to be done.
Yeah, and then enters into the argument the horizontal drilling, where you drill down on your property and then go horizontally, and you take minerals from underneath a neighbor's property. That's a whole different issue.
Absolutely.
What are some of the other issues people might want to be aware of when they consider the title to their property?
Well, title search is just so important. There are so many things that can come up. Lots of properties have gone through foreclosures. Okay, especially, we've had ups and downs in the housing market in this country, and we've had wide swaths of the country that have gone through massive foreclosures, and Pennsylvania has been hit as well. And so one of the things an attorney is going to do is, in the event that the property you're looking to purchase has been the subject of a foreclosure action, that lawsuit has to be really, you've got to go through those records very carefully and make sure that it was done properly, and that all of the lien holders and judgment holders at that time were given proper notice of the foreclosure, and that the deed was issued to the foreclosing bank or the buyer at the foreclosure sale in the correct form, and it was so the foreclosures can get very, very tricky. And if there's no title search done, then you could end up with a cloud on the title. And one of the things that you have to think about is, people say, well, how's that going to affect me? Who cares? Nobody's going to come after me because there was a defective foreclosure sale 20 years ago. Well, they very well might, okay, if someone realizes that they have title to that property or a claim to the title of that property, or that they didn't get paid at the time of the foreclosure sale as they should have. But also, what you have to be forward thinking. All of these things are things that are going to affect your ability to sell the property someday, because the buyer, whenever you go to sell the property in the future, that buyer is likely going to do a title search, and they're likely going to find these issues. So it's, you want to have good, marketable title to the property when you buy it.
Marshall Chriswell is with us. Marshall Law is the name of the segment. We're talking about property rights and property searches and what might be found there. I'm thinking of an agreement that a previous owner might have made with, for instance, a gas company to allow gas lines, mains to go underneath the property, and the new homeowner isn't aware of that because there's nothing noted on the title at all.
Well, whenever we're doing a title search, we're looking for all the documents of record. And normally, if there's a gas company that has an easement, has a right-of-way for transmission lines over a property, that is going to be recorded in the courthouse. Now, if there is an informal agreement, and sometimes you see this between neighbors for, say, access, you have a neighbor that has an adjacent property owner that doesn't have access to the public road, or doesn't have good access, convenient access to the public road. You say, well, you can use my driveway, or you can use the old gas well road that runs across my property to access your house. That's no problem. But if that's not on record, then a lot of times that is, well, I certainly wouldn't find it as part of a title search, and it wouldn't be binding on the future owner. So it's, you want to know what's out there, and you want to know what's not out there.
Yeah, well, and both are equally important, aren't they?
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
He's Marshall Chriswell with us here this morning. So the title search is extremely important when you're considering buying the property, probably for the seller as well, who might have forgotten this or that agreement or this or that right that they would retain.
It's important from a seller's perspective to kind of know what's out there. The buyer usually is the buyer is almost always the one that hires the attorney to do the title search. It's the seller's job to fix things, to fix the title if it's defective.
Oh, I see.
If there's something out there that needs to be corrected, it's going to be the seller's responsibility in most cases to shell out the money and get it fixed. It's interesting. Just if we have one more minute, I had a recent situation where a seller realized at the last minute, their property was on the market, they had a potential buyer, and then they realized after looking at some old maps for their subdivision plan that their garage actually sat over the setback line. Uh-huh. There was a setback line on the public road. They said, we had no idea. We never went and looked. We just never looked at that map, and we had somebody come build us a garage, and now we're in violation. And that was a problem with the potential seller. Mm-hmm. So with the potential buyer, and so the seller actually, we had to draw up an agreement with all of the owners in that subdivision plan to get them to waive that right, and that took some time and cost them some money, but they got it fixed, and then got the sale. Hopefully, is going to go through.
There you go.
Yeah. So those kinds of things.
Get the title search. Find out what you're buying.
Yeah.
Find out what you're selling in that case. And if you need to know a competent attorney to help you get that done, Marshall Chriswell, how do people get in touch with you?
The phone number is 724-465-5826, online at www.westernpalawyer.com.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
It's Indiana in the Morning, presented by First Commonwealth Bank, AM 1160 WCCS and 101.1 FM.